Thanks. Hi, everyone. Hope you've been having a good day. So I'm going to talk about, my presentation is about the work I've been doing with the IET, the Institution of Engineering and Technology, around product manufacturing data, but also probably you might have seen the recently published Apollo protocol and Industry Voices event we organized in March early this year. So I will talk about, touch a little bit on the industrial landscape, which I'm sure we're all familiar about. Then I will basically build on the article presented in the BIM Coordinators Summit magazine, which was about breaking the logjam, and then I have a bit of a summary. So just a bit of a info about the Institution of Engineering and Technology. It's a charitable institution with over 150,000 members in about 150 countries. I've been a member probably for over 10 years and worked on the built environment panel for the last 5 years. And the built environment panel is really trying to look at and champion the built environment and advise on policies and be independent. This is more about IBM. I work for IBM. I'm not going to go into details, but it's basically just highlighting what IBM now doing. It's not just doing no longer doing this, the hardware. It's really into consulting and the software, especially the cloud and application and general transformation. So in terms of who we are, I'll put it on the slide. So I've worked with those three people. Rick Hartwig is the built environment lead at the IET, Patricia Massey, digital and technology manager in BIMA, and Sue Butcher, who is the director and just practicing. And we formed what's called the Plain Language Guide editorial board, so which is part of the built environment panel. And the idea was that the panel is independent, and we wanted to build on a work which started back in 2017-18 through UK BIM Alliance, which published the State of the Nation report on product data. So let me go quickly into, I don't want to go through this because you probably all know the industry problems, what we have, the recent factor market demands, but I will focus on some of the work and the research we've done through the Industry Voices event and through the work on these documents and publications. So one of the first one was back in January earlier this year, we published a blog about why isn't the construction sector implementing digital transformation. A week later, we had an online, it was an online sort of webinar which was attended by Professor Rob Scott and some other professionals, and we discussed the reasons why isn't the sector implementing digital transformation in a kind of more scalable way and faster way. So some of the reasons highlighted obviously are the usual ones like siloed industry, but it was good that when we did the mirror boards, or sorry, what was it, Slido. What's coming out was the leadership, the lack of leadership, vision, the kind of end-to-end strategy, long-term vision from government as well, that we just have another new housing minister. So it's very difficult for the leaders to start implementing. So these were some of the highlights from the call, and there is a link, which I think you can then download the presentation and find the link to the recording, but also to the blog. The next one was a week later, we published the blog about making the case for transparency integrity, and that was really linked to Grenfell, the building safety. And again, there was a published blog on the 17th of Feb, there's a link, and a week later we had a call, which was also, it's there recorded and attended by Joel Koenig. And then in that call, we discussed why we're having issues with the kind of information, what are the issues, how it relates to the safety, the new golden thread, but also how it relates to long-term sustainability of housing. And there was some of the questions we asked the attendees online was also, what do you think are the barriers to transparency and integrity in our industry. And some of the keywords coming out is procurement, silos, data. So it's clearly the data, and especially now data insights and the information related to it is one of the key pillars. But also procurement, because the procurement is still, I think it's still broken, the way we procure, services, materials, contracting, how things are contracted, subcontracted, and the fact that we're probably not procuring the data and the information the way we should. The second question was what structural or behavior mechanism needs to be in place to enable transparency, and one of the kind of what came out was mandatory open standards. So really the work which we've been doing around standardization. Nick is here as well. So I think that was one of the coming out. The standards really helps. Standards need to be also accessible. I think that's one of the things for small, medium enterprises. I believe that they need to have a better understanding and accessibility to standards. And the last question was what relational or contextual mechanism needs to be in place to enable transparency and integrity in our industry. And there was some answers around new thinking, embrace failure, competency is a currency. So that was more about really looking at when we set the framework in place, how we monitor the frameworks, how we kind of as an industry reflects maybe on a quarterly basis, how we reflect and share failures, why reflecting on these failures going forward. And the third was how can we decarbonize the built environment, because that is obviously one of the big topics as well. There was a blog published. We didn't make the call because it was just before the event. But it was genuinely, we were looking at some of the questions we then asked attendees of that industry, of that event, about what is the big win, what are the big wins in the built environment and construction, and to improve sustainability. Should we use carbon as a currency? Should we procure or ask for carbon information, maybe in EIRs? Is circularity achievable for buildings or assets? What do we need for it? And what's stopping us? What can be done about it? So now, if I go, what I'd like to do now is through the documents I've been mentioning, also some of the findings from the event in March. I thought I'd put this up because that was one of the things we also asked at the event. There was about 60 C-level people, including in all the webinars, the difference between digital transformation, digitalization, and digitization. I was interested to see the answers that, was not clear really what that is, despite everyone is talking about digital transformation, and they probably mean in digitization. So I thought I'd put this up, the difference between the three buzzwords, we can call it. So the four documents I'm talking about, this first one I think it's back to 2018, and that was commissioned by UK BIM Alliance about fresh way forward for product data. So it was really looking at the product data. Then there was document which was following up around plain language guide. It was a plain language guide for manufacturers. So how you take what we have as a state of the nation, how you then can maybe make it easier for manufacturers in a plain language to kind of digitize and structure their information, make their data available. Recently, also the Apollo protocol about unification of digital twins around different sectors, and then proposal for a cross-sectoral collaboration, which should be hopefully published before the end of this year. So some of the details on the document. So the first document I mentioned, it's a report which explains why data about products does not travel through the construction cycle, why we procure data the way we procure data, what is the issue around data interoperability, how we move from just looking at product to systems, to concepts, facilities, so how we make the connection top-down, bottom-up. And one of the things was that it argues that product data is fundamental to a modern digital built environment or sustainable built environment, safer built environment, and elements are missing. And I'm not gonna even talk about naming conventions and how but the fact that we have lots of hosting companies, lots of applications dealing with manufacturers' data. Back in 2018, Construction Products Europe did their research, and it was about 400 odd applications or different initiatives just in Europe dealing with manufacturers' data. And you can just pick up 10, download information, just get information about product. And I'm not going even into systems, and you probably find 10 different information, 10 different PDFs if you're lucky. So then the second document, so the State of the Nation was 2018, then it was published, it was discussed various events, and then the COVID came in. And what we thought in 2020 that we would look at that there needs to be some follow-up of that initial report. So we came up with the idea to really come up with a plain language guide for construction product manufacturers, how they should digitize. There was also a series of blogs and webinars throughout 2020, 2021. I think it was about 12 or 14 blogs and webinars, so to collect some of the information and thinking from the industry, and not just manufacturers, but around the supply chain. The plain language guide was published in October 2021. It's been very successful. We've been talking to a product regulator. There's been a lot of interest in terms of the findings, because the document sets out the benefit of digitization at first. It's also taking manufacturers back to their principles of what they do. You know, there was lots of, again, in the last probably 5 years, lots going on around BIM objects, around, again, digital transformations, customer engagements, but really it takes them back to that why, you know, you're on the market, you're selling products, you want to change your business, so treat data as your asset like you treat products. And it also offers some advice and guidance to how to start this transformation. Don't jump on technology first, really look at internally what you do as a manufacturer. So again, back to the point is that the data and the information is key, and it's loads of that coming from manufacturers. Not all of it, but loads of that is coming from manufacturers. So, and the guide is also including some advice on third-party tech companies and consultants. So it's trying to also explain manufacturers they should not jump on a particular platform or a particular vendor. They should not be locked into a vendor. They should try to look at how they control data, how they structure data, and how they can provide the minimum required information with it as well. And then alongside of that, what we did as well is there was lots of work behind the scenes around showcasing some of the numbers in terms of becoming more efficient, stable, and reliable as a business, more profitable. How data can cause a reputation damage as well. So, yeah, there is a link to that as well. There's a full plain language guide. There's also like an 8-page summary and also 2-pager available on the IET website. And following that and the interest of from the guide, we with the IET, we kind of decided to organize an Industry Voices event. So we invited about 60 different C-level leaders across different industries, including pharmaceutical, banking, and we basically put them into a room. The event was chaired by Jill Koenig. She organized some kind of 3 rounds of roundtables related to digital transformation technology, transparency, integrity, building safety, and also sustainability, circularity, and net zero. There was a framework created. We also invited some keynote speakers. One of them was head of strategy for Audi UK, and that was quite interesting as well, how Audi had to change their business model because of Tesla. and how Audi is going to probably start introducing the way you can buy Tesla these days online. You'll be able to buy Audi soon as well. So it was interesting how that transformed their business as well, and the narratives, and that basically we might need in construction also some disruptor to come in and start disrupting the same way maybe Tesla did in an automotive. And like I said, there was lots of feedback, there was lots of boards, lots of thinking throughout the day, and some of the thinking coming out, or recommendations which would be part of that document soon published at the end of this year. There were some 8 kind of topics, where one of them was that we should learn from the others, exposing ourselves to new thinking, working with others, breaking down silos, working with competitors. I said during my work at IBM, I quite often hear companies from the same sector, from, for example, cement industry, don't want to talk to each other because they see themselves as a competitor, and I see them almost like inventing, doing the same thing, but they rather take time rather than work collaboratively. Open collaboration leads on to that. So then other one was a lack for disruptors. Simplify, democratize. What I mean is simplify the way we introduce standards, democratizing the application software landscape. I think we've been locked a lot into lots of monolithical software vendors, where it's very difficult to break from it. It's very difficult to start doing a real automation between different software vendor, because they are so vertically built that you're struggling without a consultant to integrate a number of technology across the business. One other thing was learning from failures. I think that's very important. We see case studies where things goes well, but maybe it will be worthwhile having case studies, or kind of discussing about what didn't go well as well. And encouraging agile behavior. I think that's one of the things I see also. It's crippling the industry that we don't think in an agile way. We very much waterfall focus on delivering on budget. That's related to that way of how we procure things. So I think again the change that it needs to happen there. Some of the feedback, this is some of the attendees, they left some feedback. One particular highlight to those of us who are looking for change are often frustrated. So I invited some of the, like I said, for example, the feedback from the head of Audi strategy was like, he felt like I have 60 cross-industrial C-level people sitting, blaming each other, blaming government, but no one is doing anything. So he said, you just have to do something. You just have to start working together and do something. And the others, you can read it or you can download it. It'll be in that document, which IET is hoping to publish end of this year. And the final document I'd like to mention is the Apollo Protocol. So this was a work around unifying digital twins across the sector. So basically bringing the built environment and manufacturing together, not defining what is a digital twin, what's not digital twin, what is IoT, what's not IoT. It's more, the aim of the report is to demonstrate the benefits of connecting the manufacturing built environment sector, supported by the technology, so bringing them together rather than letting them work in their own silos, inventing, reinventing, and basically wasting probably efforts as well. So the protocol will be published in September. It makes the case for a meeting of minds, the creation of common language and a framework for digital twins. It's trying to kind of showcase the benefits if the sectors works together in terms of performance, circularity, human capital, and value. So watch out for that one, is coming out soon. So in a summary, to summarize, that the price is massive. We all know that efficiency, sustainability. We're talking about net zero. We're talking about carbon reduction. Now we have the turbulences around the the energy. So the discussions and the papers shows that business leaders who want to change are quite often trapped between the increasing resource pressures, increasing kind of profitability pressures, delivering on time, and reducing returns. So although they want to modernize, they're not able to modernize. So they feel a lack of support, guidance, and leadership. So I think, again, that's going kind of to my point around having a maybe long-term strategy, long-term proper top-down, bottom-up strategy, and not changing it with every government which comes around. Technology that plays critical enabling role. It's not going to replace, it plays critical enabling role. And we should not first jump on technology. I always say that to manufacturers, don't jump on technology first. Same for contractors, operators. And built environment has benefited from the emergence of new technologies. We heard earlier how we can use edge computing in implementing into housing and making houses almost like a live and connectability. We have a lot improvements in AI. We have a lot is going on around clouds. So hybrid cloud computing is exploding. And genuinely the open data, open architecture is kind of is a must now for every software vendor, every technology vendor, or it should be. That kind of leads me to talent and skills. We also need to look at how we reskill the existing workforce, how we get a new talent in, how we make construction a bit more attractive. So that transformation goes in parallel. Ecosystems, we need to drive the change through the ecosystems, drive collaboration across value chains, and work collaboratively between the different stakeholders. Even competitors should work closely together. And lead by example and break out the old ways. If you want to get in touch or want to know more about especially some of the work around the Apollo protocol, the work around industry voices and what's going on, there's an email to the IT, so you can email, one of us will pick it up, or you can email me, or there's my Twitter and LinkedIn account. That's about it from me. Any questions? Thank you for your attention.